which I am, somebody who's in rental accommodation. Now, it's not the case. We do have control over our own bills. But for example, say, the landlord is controlling the bills. What would be your advice if somebody is interested in kind of taking more control of switching energy supplier?
Yeah. A lot of people are in rented accommodation, so these questions come up quite a lot. The first thing that you would need to do is, if you've moved into a new property for a period of time, is check with your landlord to see if you're allowed to switch. That's the first thing, because as you mentioned, the landlord may control the energy bills, and the energy bills may be added on to your monthly fee, for example. So it might be the case that your rent costs X amount and you're being charged €50 a month for gas, electricity, and it's a set amount. So that doesn't give you a huge amount of control. So you need to have a conversation with your landlord and find out if you're able to switch and who the account holder is, and try and get your hands on, as I said, the MPRN and GPRN, and obviously you'll have the address to switch the property. Um, Also, things like there might be properties that have prepayment meters installed, so top-up meters as well. So you can switch those, but again, you would need to check with your landlord. There may be a particular reason why is that, because he doesn't want somebody to run up a bill, for example. And checking that the address doesn't have any previous debt, as I said, that somebody has left the property and left the bill for the next person. So there's just a little bit of extra care required when there's some unknowns that are there. As I said, who's paying for it, who's the account holder, do you have the right to switch, will your landlord let you switch, who the current supplier is, and then the MPRNs and GPRNs, so all the typical information that you would need. So there is a little bit of extra work, but at the point when you're signing your lease, for example, for a period of time, that is the point to have those conversations very early in the process, before you've actually signed on the dotted line, to find out these things, because the last thing you want to do is sign up, and maybe this drags on for a 3 month process, and you're
Mm.
paying energy bills that possibly are non-discounted and very high. And again, it depends on how old the property is and the BER rating for the property. If it's an older property, the your consumption might be a lot higher to heat the property. So these bills can easily clock up, as well as if you're renting with a number of people. We're talking about extra showers, lights, devices, all sorts. So you can be looking at large bills over a period of time.
Yeah. And I think as well, something to consider, and I think within all of this is people's motivation for switching. Everyone has a different reason as to why they want to switch. Mine was two pronged, which was, obviously to save money, impress the people that I live with. So I'm actually saying three, and also to find an energy supplier who's providing, 100% renewable
Yeah.
electricity. So
Yeah.
that was kind of my key motivations. I'm just wondering, out of kind of any research that you've done or just knowing through Switcher, like what would be people's main motivation for switching? Is it mainly cost driven, or have you seen an increase in people looking for kind of more 100% renewable electricity and energy, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so very, very much price driven. What happens is, and typically, you know, during winter time, when our consumption increases because we're in the home more and it's colder, a large bill comes in, and the alarm bells ring, and it's like, I need to try and switch. I need to reduce my bill. So definitely price. Other factors will be as well the types of plans that are available in the marketplace. So there are energy suppliers at the moment that are offering what are called online switching bonuses, or cashback amounts. And what that means is that if you sign up to a supplier for a year, they could give you, say, €200 off your bill. So €200 credit on your bill. And that might be attractive to somebody that's in a smaller property with very low consumption, um, a larger property with high consumption, for example, they might be interested in a bigger discount. Whereas somebody in the smaller property would say, I'll take a smaller discount, but I'm going to get this online bonus that could cover, 2 or 3 bills if, if I'm not using much energy. So the types of plans can act as a trigger as well, and the competition in the market can act as a trigger. To answer your question on the renewable energy and green energy, there are 7 electricity suppliers offering what are called 100% green electricity plans. I think there are 6 suppliers that are recognized at the moment by the energy regulator as being renewable energy suppliers. So that's there's a fuel mix report that's published each year that says the source for their electricity is coming from 100% renewable, and they can promote that on the site. So that is becoming more relevant. What I find really interesting, and I think is good news for consumers, is that some of the cheapest energy plans in the market, if not the cheapest plans in the energy market, are actually coming from green electricity suppliers. So, are people being asked to pay more to go green? The answer is no. The answer is you're getting the cheapest rates or some of the cheapest rates in the market, and you're switching to a green electricity plan. So I think we all have, want to reduce our footprint and do the right thing, and energy suppliers are helping us to do that. So it certainly will be high on my agenda in terms of the things that you would do within the home, whether it's recycling, but also the energy plan that you switch to. So that would definitely be a factor that's growing at a greater pace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose just kind of coming back to the bill, dun dun dun. What would be? I know you mentioned a few things there, but just to kind of really kind of drill into that a bit more, what would be the key things for people to look out for on their bill? Like what would be the things that people find most confusing?
Yeah. So if I look at a bill, I have a list of things that I need to make sure are correct. The first one is when you receive your first bill, is there the correct billing address? I think I mentioned that earlier on.
Yeah.
Is it the correct MPRN and GPRN reference number on it? So that's just the basics to make sure that it's your home, it's the correct bill, and you're set to go. You would need to look at your billing period as well. So get familiar with your billing cycle. So for example, it might be, over a 2-month period from the 25th of one month to the 24th of the subsequent months. So become familiar with that billing cycle. And the next thing then is to look at your consumption. So you will see in kilowatt hours the consumption during that period. And also the plan that you signed up to has what's called a unit rate, and the consumption is multiplied by the unit rate to give you the value of your consumption or what that costs. So becoming familiar with that to say, okay, wow, during spring my consumption has dropped down. So for electricity, the national average consumption for electricity for a typical household is 11,000 kilowatts of energy, so per annum. So let's say, for example, in one particular month you've used 1,000, for example, but you come into spring or come into summer and it's dropped to 600. So it's just becoming familiar with, why is my bill higher during this period? And it's most likely to do with consumption. So your consumption is multiplied by your unit rate, and looking at your unit rate is really important as well, because when you sign up to the supplier, you're going to get a discounted unit rate, and you need to make sure that you are receiving that rate. But also when your discount ends, you're more likely to see it then to say discount has ended and you're on a higher rate. And sometimes your discount will end during a billing cycle. So you will have, say, 500 kilowatt hours multiplied by discounted unit rate, and then 500 at the non-discounted rate. So you
Okay.
can actually see on the bill that your discounted ended, and that's most likely discount ended and you're out of contract and you're free to switch. So really important that you try and stay on top of those. And then you'll be charged a standing charge, which is like near like a transmission and a transport cost that is like a fixed cost, and they can vary from energy supplier, but might be 176 or 180 for somebody living in an urban area in Dublin, for example. But they can vary, so just make sure that that's the rate that you did sign up to. And that rate doesn't change. Your unit rate will change when your discount ends, but your standing charge is kind of fixed. And then on top of that, you're going to have a PSO levy, which is a government tax as well, and that's around, I think, €78. And then you'll pay, all of those are combined and totaled, and then you pay 13.5% VAT on energy. So there's a lower rate for energy. So all of those components make up your bill. On your gas bill, it's very, very similar. You'll have standing charge, you'll have unit rates, you'll have your consumption. You won't have a PSO levy. You'll have what's called a carbon tax charge. And that carbon tax charge could be, €31, say, per annum. So that's spread over your bill as well. It's not just 31 that you pay on one bill. It's spread over the lifetime of, spread over a 12-month period.
Okay.
So they're the components that you need to look out for. And I think if you're on top of those things, you will be better equipped to make sure that you're paying the cheapest rates if you stay on top of your bills. I mean, to add to that, I said that you will find out when your discount ends as well. So that's really important. But also by looking at your bill, you'll be able to tell whether it's estimated or not.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see the word E next to your consumption, you need to go out and take a meter reading and submit it. So, or certainly before the next billing cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, there's something about bills that just sometimes seem overly complicated, but when you get a handle on it and you understand acronyms, what they mean, you do tend to feel more empowered to then make a difference or switch or reduce your energy consumption. And I suppose when I started getting into it, I was lucky enough to have a team of 15 people in Codema to ask all these questions to. But if people are watching this and they're kind of like, oh my gosh, okay, right, MPRN, and making a list, do you guys at Switcher.ie have all of these kind of explained for people so that they could kind of...
Yes, there's guides on the site. And again, consumers might find bills daunting. There's no doubt about it. And as I said, it's not exactly a fun thing to do, is to sit down and set aside time and read bills and look at energy bills. It isn't. And there are people that will find it really interesting, but majority of people might say this isn't a really nice task to carry out. So, but once you do it a couple of times, you build up that knowledge. What I would say is that energy suppliers are actually, over the years have become much better at helping us out in this space. So in most cases, if you flip over your bill, on the back of it, it will explain your bill.
Okay.
So the information is there. So the information is on Switcher.ie. The information should be on the back of your bill. It will definitely be on your energy supplier's website. And they will also have things like video tutorials as well, and really simple to read guides in terms of how to break down your bill. But, being able to understand your bill, you will spot if there's something wrong. So if you've been billed incorrectly, and that could happen. It could be manual error, it could be a technical error, it could be, you're being billed for somebody else's energy. Rare cases, but if you're on top of your bills, you'll spot these things.
Yeah, true. And I remember I was on a webinar recently and they said, if you spot anything that you don't understand, just ask the question. It's your money, so you should, feel empowered to do that. And also just on you saying it's not the most fun thing to do. The way I kind of look at it as, if you're going to potentially save, €400, what is fun is going on holiday with that 400 euro. So it's just trying to translate that money that you could save into something that's tangible and worth the effort. Which, as you're saying, actually, when you get a handle on it, isn't that much of an effort.
Yeah, I mean, the energy regulator releases some research or publishes research usually every year about the consumer market, and they would say that over a 3-year period that you could save up to anything to 1,200 to 1,400 euro, saving over a 3-year period. And I think what usually gets consumers is that if I'm paying at the moment, let's say you're paying 100 euro, but your discount ends and you're going to pay 130 euro. If you switch, you might switch to a plan that is 101 euro.
Mm-hmm.
So you may not see the saving from year one to year two. What it is saving you from is overpaying. So that's, if you don't do this, you are definitely going to pay more. So your bills may not, if you're paying 100 euro and you switch to a really competitive deal that's maybe 102 euro, you're not going to see much difference in your bills. And sometimes that can confuse consumers because they say, okay, I've just switched, but like I didn't really save anything on my last bill. What you're preventing yourself from doing is moving to the non-discounted rate that would have cost you an extra 400 euro in the 12 months ahead.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's really important to keep on top of your bills. So that can confuse consumers to say, I'm still paying the same rate. But what you've done is you've saved that money. If you didn't make that switch or process that switch, you'd be on the higher rate, and potentially it would cost you an extra 400 euro per year. So you're right. It's your hard-earned money as well. So in most cases, you will have had to pay tax on your earnings to pay that bill. So money is, there are a lot of people in a position where energy is a hot topic at home in terms of being able to pay bills. We released research a number of years ago on the topic of what's called energy poverty. And that is a reality in Ireland, unfortunately, that there are households that struggle to pay energy bills, can rack up debt quite quickly. And some of the features of that would be that, they go without energy to try and save money, which could have impact on health, for example. So it is very serious, and being able to save money is, hard-earned money, or put it into your back pocket, it gives you a lot of power, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been so much in this. I've learned so much. Thank you. And I suppose, have I missed anything? Is there any kind of final pieces of advice or words of
Yeah,
wisdom you have?
there's a question here that's it says, other than researching deals in the market, in your opinion,
Yeah.
what else can you do to impact on your energy bills? So I have some points on that. So the first one is to become more energy aware as an individual, or as a home, or as a family. So you need to monitor your consumption within the home. That's now easier to do than ever before. So we can do that through online platforms. You can obviously do it through your bill if you want to keep a record. You can do it through apps on your phone as well, where you can monitor your consumption and see the changes. And what you want to try and do is make changes to your consumption that will reduce your energy consumption over a period of time, and hence reduce your bills. So simple things like reducing your thermostat by 1% can save 10% on your energy bill over the space of a year. A couple of years ago, we had some research, and we asked consumers what thermostat levels were they turning up their thermostat to, and we had 26 degrees and 27 degrees, and there was a cohort of people that were heating their house higher than places, and warmer than places in Spain during the summer, and they had their heating on during the summer. There isn't a need to have it on. You need a healthy level of heat within the home. But if you start to clock it up by 1 or 2 degrees, you're just burning energy potentially that you don't need. So changing your habits, one of the things that would help you do that is getting a smart thermostat installed in your home. So there's quite a few of these in the marketplace. Google has a product called Nest.
Mm-hmm.
There's another product called Climode. There's a range of them that are available. Typically, they cost around €200 if you were to buy them off the shelf. Now that might vary by a couple of euro, but energy suppliers have tariffs that you can sign up to that give you a device for free, for example. And you may sign up to a 12 or a 24-month contract, but you'll get that device for free and you'll get that device installed. Maybe not at the moment due to the COVID restrictions, but you will get that device. And I have one and I find it absolutely fantastic because I can boost my heating with my phone. I can boost, for a half an hour if that's all required. For water, you can have different zones within your home. You can also set notifications that if your heating is on and you leave the house and you drive, 5 kilometers away, it will recognize that you've left the heating on, and it will recognize that you're such a distance from your home, and it'll ask you, do you want to turn off the heating? And also you can time it then. If you come in from work at a particular time during the winter, you can time it to come on just slightly before you arrive. So rather than leaving it on for longer periods, you can control your consumption within zones and rooms within the house. And you can also control that time, but you can also monitor the consumption, and you could have particular, for example, you may not need heating on at nighttime upstairs until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. So tips and tricks like that will work. I mean, there's the basics as well, which is close your curtains during the winter.
Yep.
So that traps in the heat. There's also close doors and windows, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're boiling a kettle, there's no requirement to boil a full kettle. If you're just having one cup of tea, that's just using more energy than you need. And also then look at things like grants for insulation for your home. Depending on the rating B or rating of your home and how old your home is, there are grants available, and insulation can help reduce your energy bills. There's no doubt about that if you've got proper insulation in your home. But yeah, use of lights as well. I mean, there may be some people now that again have smart devices to control lights to come on at certain times. You might want to use the plug-in timers, for example,
Yeah.
if lights are coming on at a certain time. So all of those things, and probably finally as well is three things. If you've got teenagers in your house, they tend to use quite a lot of energy, and they tend to stay in the shower for a lot longer. I don't have any teenagers, but what I would say is make it fun to educate people within the home about energy
Yes.
consumption. Try and set some goals, and maybe even have some rewards associated with those goals, rather than having it as you can't switch it on. And I suppose old school Ireland was, don't leave the immersion on,
Immersion
for
on. Yeah.
example. So I think making it fun for kids and teenagers to get involved in energy project within the home, trying to reduce your consumption is a good one, and to set those goals. And then finally, you might want to look at, again, there's costs associated with this, but solar power. So
Mm-hmm.
solar power can contribute to things like heating hot water and reducing energy bills, etc. There
Yeah.
may be some new bills that already have them in place, for example. So that's just something to look out for. And again, grants apply in the solar space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's actually very funny. Out of the three conversations now that we'll have had for the Ask the Expert series, you've all mentioned teenagers taking a long time in the shower. But it's true in terms of making it fun for the family. And I suppose that's what we're trying to do with our home energy saving kit that we have, which is available in over 100 libraries now. Obviously not during COVID times, but fingers crossed they'll be available soon. And we do have a few resources on our website as well, like become an energy champion in 7 days and things like that, just to try and make it fun. Because I suppose it's just when you get the whole family involved, it is like a team effort, and it's not this kind of like pointing the finger blame game.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's, it depends on obviously the family and the parents, but there's different ways to approach things. There's the you can kick and massage as such. You want to have some level of authority, but you don't want to be too forceful that you're going to shut them down and they rebel. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, again, if you have the information to hand in terms of what your consumption is, if you're not staying on top of your bills, you don't stand a chance.
Hmm.
So obviously apps are helping with that now, that we can actually look at our consumption, and smart meters will play a huge role in that. Absolute
Yeah.
huge role. Like you will have those what I call time of use tariffs, that you can see, what you're using at different points of the day. And for example, as I mentioned, the electric cars charging them at night time, but you could set your timer, for example, for your washing machine to come on at 4 in the morning, which I've done. Not true that it would save me money because I'm on a 24-hour urban tariff. But
Okay.
if I was on a smart meter plan, and there's, I think, roughly around 250,000 homes have a smart meter already.
Hmm.
It was slightly delayed, the rollout last year, because of COVID, but it's picked up again. So they have targets to meet. So in the next couple of years, every household will have a smart meter, and that'll make a big difference, because then you can sign up to a plan that has cheaper rates at night time, and then you can say, okay. I mean, there is a bit of a challenge to change consumption, because most people would eat maybe from 6 p.m. till half 7 p.m. or half 5 till half 7. So, and that's typically what's called peak hour. So,
Mm.
and there's peak rates, there's day night peak, for example, in what's called an SST, a smart standard tariff. So, it's very difficult to say we're going to eat our dinner at 4 o'clock, or
Yeah.
we're working, etc. So it's just trying to change our habits will happen over time, via education and better technology, which I'm pleased to say is the wheels are in motion already on that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well,
good.
I think that's a very optimistic note to finish on. Oh, and thank you so much. If people wanted to kind of find you guys on socials, or, I know it's switcher.ie, which is pretty easy to remember, but where can people find you?
Obviously, directly come to the website, type in Switcher into Google, you'll find us. We have Facebook and Twitter page as well, if people want to connect with us. But we have a customer service team that, we have an email address, customer service at Switcher.ie. If anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to field them.
Brilliant. Oh, and thank you so much for your time.
Very welcome, Katie.